Hey YouTube, welcome back to Homegrown Outdoors, where we review American-made outdoor gear. Today we are doing some American-made work gear, the Danner Quarry USA work boot, 8-inch tall boot, leather upper, Gore Tex lined, so 100% waterproof, Vibram sole, which is non-conductive. Pretty tough boot all around. As you can see, I've worn this one for a little while because I wanted to have some actual experience with it before doing a review. Available configuration, so this one, that's called Distressed Brown, that color. This is an alloy toe boot because I use it primarily outside doing a lot of woodwork, wood cutting, stuff like that. But it's available brown, black, this distressed brown, with or without an alloy toe. They also have an insulated version up to 400 grams of thinsulate. You can get it with a Danner wedge sole instead of that 90-degree heel. That's a softer material, primarily for indoor, sort of indoor smooth surfaces, I guess. They also make a version that has a metatarsal guard for some protection on the top of the foot. So depending on which configuration you get, you're looking retail from Danner between $270 and $290. For this work boot, this one is available for, or is eligible for recrafting with Danner. You wear this thing for a couple years, wear the sole out, tear some stitching up, whatever it is. They have sort of different levels of this recrafting that they'll do for you. So it kind of starts out with replacing hardware, as I mentioned, stitching, reconditioning the leather, some stuff like that, for about $90 as of June of 2020, and then they do a supreme package, I guess, which sort of has everything in there, replacing the sole, shank, liner, as well as touching up any stitching, hardware, or leather issues you might have. So I mean, I can see where the upper is tough enough that you could potentially, it could survive a number of soles here, and obviously the upper is going to conform to your foot over time. So if you've got that thing where it's fitting you real well and you want to try to squeeze some more life out of it, that reconditioning is available for you. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier or not. That Supreme package, depending on the boots, like $220 to $260, so not inexpensive for sure. With this boot, you're talking about $270 to $290 new. But weight on these things, and I'll talk a little bit more about the weight in a few minutes. Get out of grams here. So 27.34 ounces, somewhere thereabout. So about 1.12 pounds roughly. It's a work boot, so if you want something that's this tough and is going to stand up to some hard work and some abuse, if you're used to wearing dress shoes every day, that's going to seem heavy, but they're definitely substantial. I mean, these suckers are going to hold up to some punishment. You can see on here the American flag there, so this is part of Danner's Made in the USA product line, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So Made in the USA can mean a lot of things. For Danner, it means three different things. They sort of have three levels of Made in America that they lay out. So their primary plant's in Portland, Oregon, founded there in 1932 by Charles Danner, and they still take pride in manufacturing there, and that's awesome. That's a big part of what we're trying to highlight. So the three levels of American made that they go through, Berry compliant is sort of the most stringent one. So the Berry Amendment requires the Department of Defense to favor domestically produced products. So particularly food, clothing, fabric, specialty metals, that all sort of falls under this Berry Amendment. So Danner has sort of put some of their products through the review that would be required, and I'm sure reams of paperwork and record keeping to prove not only that the product's made in America, but even that all the raw materials that create the components that are then assembled to make a boot come from the US. So that's sort of the strictest level. They only have one boot, again, June of 2020. I only see one boot on their website that is listed as Berry compliant, and that's a boot called the Reckoning. It's an 8-inch combat boot. Appears to be on closeout now, and I can imagine with all that would be involved with dealing with the federal government and jumping through their hoops, that they're not going to pursue that Berry compliant stamp unless they absolutely need it. So that's sort of that. The middle range for Danner, they just have products that they say are made in the U.S. So quoting their website, they say, "Our promise that this product was built from top to bottom in our Portland, Oregon factory." So reading between the lines, I'm guessing that those products are, take them at their word, made in Portland from the bottom up. And probably with materials that mostly come out of the U.S. They don't specifically say that, but when you hear what the third category is, you'll see where I think it's reasonable to make that assumption. So those made in the USA boots, I think, are just that. They're made at the factory in the U.S., and I would imagine that most of the materials come from there. The models that fit that category would be the Danner Rainforest, Super Rainforest, Mountain Light, Danner Light, Mountain Pass, Explorer, Elk Hunter, Marine Expeditionary Boot, the Acadia, a number of others. So they've got a bunch of boots that are in that category of made in the USA. So you go on the website, you can check that out. So the third category of made in the USA is where this boot fits. So that's made in the USA with imported components. So imported materials, partially assembled components are shipped to Portland and then they're finished. So it's not just that raw materials are coming from other countries, it's that some of the work is being done in other countries. So, some aspects of this boot are being put together somewhere else, then those, sort of pre-assembled components come to Portland for final manufacturing. So again, from their website, once in our factory, the boot uppers are formed and the entire bottom of the boot is constructed by hand. So the idea is that it's a bit less expensive, still somewhat made in the USA boot. The Quarry, this boot, the Bull Run series, Black Belt, Crag Rat, Mount Adams, San Angelo, the snake boot, Thoroughfare, and some others all fit in this category. I did reach out to Danner to see if they would elaborate on, point of origin for some of these other components, and I give them credit. I mean, they did respond. The customer service rep was very polite, reached out to product development, and they just declined. They said that that's effectively proprietary information, which I can respect. I don't think they're necessarily hiding anything there. They're entitled to run their business the way they see fit. So that's sort of the story on Made in the USA and the different things that can mean for Danner. My overall impression of the Quarry boot, plenty rugged for me, for sure. I think it's a tough work boot. I like the alloy toe for the stuff that I do. Laces are stout, kind of everything about this boot is stout. So pretty impressed there. And it can be recrafted. So you can get years and years of life out of these things for most folks. For a boot that is this rugged, I think they're comfortable, and I think they were pretty comfortable out of the box. I mean, any kind of boot, you're going to need some break-in time. You got to be kind to your feet and not torture yourself. But I think right out of the box, they were pretty comfortable, and as I wear them, they're just breaking in more and more. So that's good. These are 12s, by the way, which would be useful information for that weight that I did earlier, and that's pretty true to size for me. Typically I land somewhere 12, sometimes 12 wide to 13, so I guess if anything these may be just slightly on the large side, but pretty true to size, I think. The made in the US with imported components, would I prefer that all the components come from the US? Sure, but this is a way for them to try to manage cost on this boot a little bit, while still keeping the finishing in the U.S., keeping a lot of the manufacturing in the U.S., and keeping the quality control in the U.S. Because folks in their plant in Portland are seeing all these components as they come in, and they're going to have the opportunity to sort of check it out and make sure that it meets their standards before it leaves. So all in all, it certainly beats an all imported boot. Downside, I mean, it's not really even a downside. Again, a boot that's this tough is going to have some weight to it. So if you're used to wearing tennis shoes every day, you're going to notice a difference the first few days that you're wearing these boots. But if you're wearing work boots day in and day out, I think the weight is reasonable. They've probably done a pretty good job managing weight here. So, not a downside. It's just really the price that you pay when you've got a boot that's as tough as this one is. So overall, I like the Danner Quarry a lot. Hopefully the review's been helpful for you. If you want to see more information on American-made outdoor gear, like and subscribe. Thanks a lot. See you next time.